When I first arrived in Japan, I wanted to learn swear words because I thought that they are necessary to, know them. But actually swear words are almost never used in Japan. There aren't any swear words, there are very few. And these swear words are not very bad according to the Western standards in comparison to what we say. So one of the worst things that a person can say about someone else in Japan is baka. And baka, it means stupid. So in Canada it would be almost silly to say, when you are very angry at someone and you would say, "You stupid person." it's silly. So of course we use a lot of bad words, and all of those words are really hard on the ears. I don't want to bring them up here, but you know them very well. Mother F and F you and all kinds of stuff. So all these words come along with the gestures, the middle finger, something that I often used to do when I lived in Canada. But now, of course, I never see it on the streets of Japan, and I just don't use it anymore myself. I try to stop it because I still did maybe a few times when I drove a few years ago, and I felt that this was a kind of a macho thing to do because it shows that I'm not afraid of the other guy. The other driver annoyed me, so I would show him the middle finger. But actually now I think it's not the show of courage. It's more like the show of ignorance and boorishness and arrogance and just being silly. So I don't do that anymore. When I first came to Japan, I joined the gym, and when I went to the gym, I thought that, similarly to the Western gyms, one should make noise when one exercises. So I did like this, right? And then I found out after a couple of years that I was the only one to do that, because all the Japanese people, they always exercise quietly. So now I also do just the breathing in and out, but that's all. So you can hear the sound of like this, like this. That's the maximum. That's also more than the Japanese, because they usually just go, which is difficult for me to do. So anyways, noise, it's something that of course bothers other people. So why should you be noisy? And that's a great thing that Japanese people are not noisy. They don't shout, they are not screaming, they don't talk loudly in public places, in the stores and in shopping centers, etc. Beginning, when I came to Japan, I didn't know that Japanese people don't say no out loud, and then I thought that they said yes when they said maybe. So sometimes I got a refusal. They would say, for example, I would say, "Would you like to come and visit me?" And somebody would say, "Oh, that's maybe a possibility, let me think about it." At that time I thought it just means, yeah, it's a possibility. But actually now I know that this was a refusal, a kind of polite refusal, an attempt to be, courteous at the same time as you refuse and say no thank you. So in Canada I actually prefer the no thank you type of attitude, but the general refusal of things, no, there's no discussion, oh, ridiculous, hopeless, forget it. That's absolutely not the case in Japan. In Canada, we honk a lot. And, beep, 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 move over, come on, get going, shout a lot. In Japan, you never shout, people never shout, people never honk. If somebody's waiting for the green light and forgot to go and is still looking at his cell phone, for example, the person behind that person might beep a little, might honk a tiny little honk. So beep beep, beep, little peep, and the other person will wake up and apologize and go. People generally are courteous. Any negative comment about other people, it's again very rare. So people usually don't say, "Oh, your video on YouTube is ridiculous," or "Your haircut is pathetic," or whatever, Something that if you actually participate in the Western culture, via YouTube or some other means, or just simply live there, you get to hear. And even movie critics don't really say anything negative. In Canada, in America, people say, "Oh, this movie, it's a waste of your money. Don't go and don't see it. Don't go to the movies and see this movie because it's a waste of your money." Well, in Japan, if people don't like, and they are the critics and they don't like the movie, they would say, you know, for people who like this kind of, for example, action movie, then it's maybe something that they may want to see, but for others who like more reflective movies, this movie would not be probably the best choice. So they are very mild in criticizing. And I think that, by the way, this is the reason why we have so many rough, tough-looking kids and adults in our countries, and why we have violence to the extent that we do. When you are being criticized by others, when you are being shouted at by others, your natural response is to try to become rougher, tougher, bigger, meaner, stronger, because you don't want to be criticized by others. So you put on a hood, you put on loose clothes, probably you are packed under those loose clothes, or maybe you are packing. And so anyway, you want to scare the other people off and protect yourself. So you try to be as bad as you can, and you use the vulgar words yourself, and you use the gestures yourself, and you try to be tough. You listen to all the mean rap and you try to be mean yourself as much as you can, because it's a way of protecting yourself from the criticism of others, from the violence of others, the verbal violence. The verbal violence of others, which is in the daily life, it's kind of unseen or not clearly seen, but it's there. It's the underlying violence that's always there. Criticism of other people and derogatory comments. So this stuff, it's almost non-existent in Japan. Therefore, Japanese people in their society are quite peaceful, quite calm. Fighting is not a common thing in Japan. Nobody really fights on the streets, and people grow up without fighting. Whereas in the Western countries, to grow up as a boy, you are almost guaranteed to have fought a few times in it. The kindness of Japanese people, which permeates their culture, it's something that we could learn from. And yeah, there are many aspects of this kindness that I could talk more about, but maybe I'll do so in another video. Sayonara.